In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a bow in a wall with joint compound. And we're going to do it right now. I'm in the process of finishing this hallway. I installed this bifold door, and the step after that was to install this baseboard. And that is when I noticed that this wall is bowed. Now, if you look straight down the baseboard, you can tell that there's a bow in it. And that's how I noticed it after finishing it, sitting on the couch and looking down the hallway. That's how I saw it. If I take my 2-foot level and put it against here, you can really see it. So there's probably about a little more than an 1/8 inch gap right here, and it's tight here and tight here. And the reason that's happening is because this wall is bowed the same way. So when I did this remodel, this was the existing wall, and I obviously didn't pay enough attention to this when I was mudding it. I wanted to move on to other things. So now I have to fix it. Well, I don't have to fix it. I know it's not that bad, but if I don't, I know that every time I look down this hallway, I'm gonna wish that I did, because it's gonna bother me like crazy. So I figured I'd make this video. If you have something similar to this that bothers you, or if it's way worse, it's gonna be the same process. So if that's the case, I hope this video helps you. The first thing I'm gonna do is straighten out this baseboard. I could either rip it right off and put it back on after I mud this, but I'm gonna do it a different way. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. Luckily, I haven't caulked this in yet. If I did, I would cut this line. If this is an existing wall in your house, you may have baseboard that is caulked in, so you'll have to very carefully cut that with a knife. And then I'm gonna take a nail set, and I can see my nails right here. It might be a little trickier for you if it's all prepped and painted. I'm gonna hammer these nails right in so that they go through this board and they're no longer holding it to the wall. This is gonna create a bigger hole. That's okay. I will fill them afterwards. And I'm gonna try and sneak this back here. It's still somewhat attached, but I'm gonna sneak this back here, trying not to destroy the baseboard. Try and pop this out. There we go. Little tiny damage here. I can caulk that in, it'll be fine. Now I just wanna check this with a level or a straight edge and just get this to where it's straight. We're close there. And then I'm gonna take some of these flat shims. I just wanna grab the right size. So put this one in there. Make sure it's in the correct place, sitting right next to those nails. And then when I shoot that, that is gonna be nice and straight. Now I'm gonna nail this back into place. I'm not gonna shoot in the same spot as these nails, obviously. I'm gonna shoot right next to them and hit that stud. And because that shim's back there, this baseboard stayed exactly where it needs to be. Now I have a reference to where I need to bring that mud out to. There's a gap right here between the baseboard and the wall, so I just need to bring that joint compound out to this baseboard in order for this to be straight. If you really wanted to and you didn't want to deal with all the mudding, you can just caulk this in and paint it and call it a day. That's totally up to you, but I'm gonna make this wall straight because it's gonna bother me. It's in my direct line of sight when I'm hanging out with Coda on the couch, so I need to fix it. There's a couple different products you can use when doing this. These are the two that I would recommend. If you're gonna do this in a weekend, you're taking your time, you're not worried about it, I would recommend this USG joint compound. This is the lightweight stuff. Blue top, the green top is the more heavy duty. This is just easier to work with, and you can splash a little bit of water in here just to make it even easier to work with. This is also dust control, and it really does help when you go to sand this to control the dust. believe it or not. There's that if you're not in a hurry. If you're in a hurry, I would use something like this. This is USG Easy Sand. This is Easy Sand 5. What the number stands for is you have 5 minutes of working time with this stuff. That's a pretty bold move when you're skim coating a wall. That's what this is called. When you're doing a big patch, you're not taping, mudding, you're just skimming this wall to make it flat. They have Easy Sand 20, Easy Sand 90. That might be a better fit for you, especially if you've never done this or if you are not a pro at it. I'm not considering myself to be a pro at it, but I've done it before, and I'm gonna mix this up as fast as I can and get it on the wall and hope that it doesn't start curing on me. Because in 5 minutes, that's exactly what it's gonna do. It's gonna start curing, and the more you move it around and you start getting the little crusties in it that are drying up, you're just gonna make a mess. So if you're gonna use this, keep that in mind. You're gonna have to be really quick. If you wanna take your time, you're not in a hurry, I would use this joint compound. But I'm gonna use this, so let's mix it up. So I cut a nice straight piece of wood to put along the length of this wall. I'm just gonna mark about where I need to go to, which is about right here. This is just gonna be a rough guide to what I need to do. And then up here, pretty much goes flat, so I can stop right about there. I'm actually gonna use this as a skimming tool because I don't wanna buy a 24-inch blade or a 24-inch taping knife. So I'm gonna put too much mud on basically, and then scrape this along just like this until it's flat. Now, doing that on the first coat is fine, but it will be a little rough because it's wood, it's not a taping knife, so it's not gonna make it totally smooth, but I'm gonna do at least 2 coats with this stuff. It's okay if the first coat is a little rough. So I have that. I have my taping knives. You can use whatever you want. I'm gonna use these. This is a 6-inch, and I believe this is a 14. These are a little rusty. I think they're coming to the end of their lives, or I can maybe sand off the rust. Not a great thing to have in your mud, not the end of the world. I have my bucket that I'm gonna mix in. I have my bucket full of water, got my Easy Sand, and I have a drill with a mixing wand on it. I gotta do this pretty quickly, so I make sure that I have all of my stuff that I need. I'll take some of this, only mix up what I think I'm gonna need, and the rest is gonna be trash. Also don't wanna mix up too little. I'm also gonna add a little blue chalk to this mix for 2 reasons. One, I want you to be able to see, and I wanna be able to see. This is a white wall, so sometimes with drywall mud, since it's white, it's hard to tell exactly where the mud is. It'll just make it easier when I go to sand it and make it look nice. So I'll just add a little bit in here. Have plenty of water and mud on hand so that you can add if you need to. I put a lot of chalk in this. Okay, make sure it's mixed up good. My taping knife. I want the consistency to be something like that. That's a lot of chalk. So when it comes to mudding, really the only way to master it is to just do it a lot. But I'll try and help you. You just want to put it on in thin coats, but like I said, I'm gonna put it on thicker than I need and then skim it off. I'm gonna go to the line that I made here, which is right there, and the line that I made here. I'm gonna keep loading this up, using that baseboard as a reference for how far I want to come out, and going just a little bit past that. I just use this 14-inch as kind of a holder for my mud. Use the 6-inch to spread it on the wall. Okay, now I wipe this clean. Just get a little more smooth. Put a little more pressure on the outside edge here as I pull up to kind of feather it. The same thing on this side. And I'm gonna just go on the top of the baseboard here. Make that nice. And right in the middle. Okay. Use my skimming tool. Try and get a smooth side. Hold it right here. One more time. Okay. That's it for the first coat. And now, any tool that you're using that you need to keep clean, I would clean it up right away. And this stuff is already setting up, and it's been maybe 4 minutes. As you can see, cures very quickly. So I'm going to clean this bucket up and clean this stuff off the floor. On the baseboard, I'm just going to carefully clean it off, so that way I have less to sand off. A little shaky. Too much coffee today. So your first coat might look a little something like this. Unless you do this professionally, in which case you're probably not watching this video. It's been about 15 minutes and this is cured up nice. It's not completely solid, but it is enough to put a second coat on. And we just check, see how we did. And that is nice and straight. This is close enough to where if we do a nice thin second coat, we should be able to sand out any imperfections and make this wall look perfect. Before I do a second coat, I'm just gonna take my taping knife and scrape this a little bit and get any of the high spots or any of the chunks off of here. Like down here, there's some spots. I just wanna clean it up a little bit. When you're doing this, you wanna make sure you don't put it on too thick, because what could happen is you can get cracks in this. You can always mud over that, but it's just a better idea to put nice thin coats on. Do maybe 2 or 3 coats. I might be able to get away with 2 on this one, but we'll see. Round 2 with way less chalk. And I use blue chalk because it tends to not bleed through the paint. It's not as likely to bleed through the paint, say as a red or a black. All right. Good consistency. Now with the second coat, I'm just gonna cover what's here, and then I'm gonna pull it nice and tight. Whereas before, I tried to fill in that 1/8 inch of a gap, which is about the max that you wanna do at a time to avoid the cracking that I was talking about. Spread it out nice and even. Feather the edges. Now I'm gonna take my knife and just go on top of that baseboard. Apply pressure. And clean that up. Then I'll take my 14-inch knife, start on the side here. Pull that nice and tight. Same thing on this side. And one in the middle. And that's it. Don't need to go crazy. And after 2 coats, it looks a little something like this. Basically just smoothed out the whole thing. A little hard to see on camera, but it's looking good. Nice and smooth. The cure time of this easy sand on the bag says between 10 and 14 minutes, but it's also going to depend on a lot of factors, how thick you put it on, humidity level, temperature, that kind of thing. I let this cure for about a half an hour. You should be good with that in order to sand it out, or if you have to do another coat. This is only a second coat, but I think it looks awesome, and I think that's all I need. If you need to do a third coat, just scrape it down again and mix it up nice. My biggest tip would be to make sure all of your tools are clean, the bucket's clean, the mixing wand is clean, because if you get one little piece of dried drywall mud in there, it'll drive you nuts. It'll make a nice big scrape, and if you get chunks in there, it's just not fun to work with. So keep everything clean, and if you need to do a third coat, do a third coat. But I'm ready to sand this out. I'm going to use an extra fine sanding sponge, which is 220 grit, and I'm going to just go slow and make this smooth as butter. Up top here is probably the messiest part, so I'll show you what you need to do. Just go slow. You just want to make it smooth. Go easy. Just feather it in. So it looks a little something like that. There's another high spot right here. It really doesn't take much, even with 220 grit. And now I can just sand the entire thing. And as I go, I can hold my level like this, and that is perfect. So I just want to sand that, make it smooth. If there's spots where this is rocking just a little bit, I'll take off a little more mud right here and just make this smooth. Same thing down here, but this looks really good. Nice and straight. I have some overhead lights, so it's really easy to see the imperfections here. But if you don't have the best lighting, a good way to do this is to hold a light just like this and go up and down, and you'll see where you need to sand. And if you can see it with this getting smooth, you will never be able to see when the light is off after you paint it and everything. So if you want to make it way more perfect than it needs to be, you can do that. Sanding is done. I actually did sand it down and noticed that it could use a third coat. So I just did a really thin third coat, let it dry, sanded that again, and I think it looks awesome. Nice and straight. Checked it with my level in a couple places, and it looks perfect. Now we can clean everything up and prime it. Okay, that is looking awesome. When I'm ready, I can fill those nail holes in, caulk all the trim in, and paint my wall color. That is much more straight. What do you think, Coda? Okay, cool. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have a bow in your wall, I hope it helps. If you want to see more videos like this, you can click hereish and hereish and check those out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely consider it for more home repair videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Come on. Seriously? Oof. Come on.